Hello, testing. One, two, three. Huzzah. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Nom Watch Review, part of the Nom Talk network, the channel that you are currently on. I am your host of the evening and the producer behind OBS, Stephanie. Tonight, we are super excited because we are going to be like nomming on our little snacky snacks and drinking our little drinky drinks while we talk about Aladdin, the Disney animated film Aladdin from 1992. Yes, turning 30. Holy Hera,
Oh,
let's
why did you say that?
because I'm
I
not
got
that far.
heartburn
I'm
all of
not
a
that much
sudden.
older than the movie, and it hurts. But I am really excited to introduce our guests. One is brand new, and the other one is a returning victor from our Obi-Wan collection. So let's go ahead and start off with Jeromy. Jeromy, hello, hi, how are yous?
Hello,
Hi.
I'm good. Tonight I have my favorite Oreos. These are my favorite brand type of Oreos. These are chocolate peanut butter pie. I absolutely love them. So I'll be snacking on those, and I have a nice little cup of milk to be dipping them into. It is my heavy metal mug, yes. I actually designed that. Outside of talking about things, I work at Heavy Metal, and I just designed that mug, and they sent it to me as a sample. So now I have milk and
Oh.
cookies out of it. It's very metal.
Bare metal.
That is super metal. All right. And then we have a brand new guest, somebody I used to work with back in the G4 days, now that we say it that way. Miss Christine. Hi, hi.
Hello! Thank you so much for having me. Rest in peace, G4. But then we can do fun stuff like this together, so I love it. Today I am snacking on. I've got my El Capitan Theater popcorn bucket, and I've got some popcorn and some M&Ms, and then water. Nothing crazy, but it's delish.
Look, I can't judge because I am eating like popcorn chips and I have my ADHD collection of 3 water bottles and a old, old thing of orange Fanta.
Yum.
So let's thank you so much for being here.
Of
Thanks for
course,
joining
my
me in this
pleasure.
convo. This is going to be super duper fun. But yeah, here, Nom Watch Review, we talk about our favorite throwbacks and some new films. So let's check the chat. We have Q. Q in the house. Good evening, all, and how's everyone? I had some lasagna, mashed potatoes, and gravy, and drinking some milk.
Yum.
Okay,
It's
Fun
good
and
for you.
berry.
I
Good for y'all.
know. Like, all right, Q, I know what you're going to be doing in a few hours, buddy.
The
Um,
doctors keep telling me I'm lactose intolerant. I just don't acknowledge them.
We're
right?
just gonna avoid
All
that.
They're
right,
like,
stop.
sounds like fake news. Oh,
Like you're professional to an extent. Now you're
no.
messing with my favorites, and I
Now
can't
you're
have that.
pushing it.
Yeah, I
You're
can
You're
pushing it,
bullying
buddy.
me.
But let's start off with our popcorn ratings. Now, popcorn ratings are from 0. I just realized that I had a solid 0 up to a 5, 5 being the best film of all time. Let's start with you, Christine. What would you rate this film?
Oh, okay. So the nostalgia in me who loves Aladdin, who watched this over and over and over and probably had it memorized as a kid, um, wants to say 5. However, I did wake up this morning, refreshed, watched it again for probably the first time in years, and it all came flooding back to me, and I love it. But for reasons we'll get into, I'm thinking a 3, which is harsh, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Ooh, okay, okay. So as you can see right now, she is at a 5, but I am going to change it because now we realize that is nostalgia and only nostalgia. Sad. And then
Nostalgia rating 5.
there you go. And then Jeremy, what would you rate this film?
So I similarly have a lot of nostalgia for this film, and I would consider it near, if not in, my top 5 Disney animated films of all time. That being said, and for a a similar reason and a big caveat that I'm going to need to get into. I'm actually just going to give it a 3.5 because there's some make and break factors that we're going to go over, but I think it's good. It's worthy of being in my top 5. But if there was one tweak, it would probably be like a whole different movie for me. So with that in mind, I'm going with a 3.5. I think the only thing I've ever given a perfect score out of these was when we did Hercules, which is the perfect movie.
Yes.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, we are going to dive into it because Christine and I just fresh off Disney Plus. We watched it, we noticed it. I personally give it a 4. Yes, because it's nostalgic as a film. It's nostalgic as a collection of films and show episodes. It is nostalgic for my personal history. And, if I didn't care for the movie, I would have also given it a 3. I will say, granted, I would have given it a 3 for multiple reasons. Cue Ball says, for me, it's 5 out of 5. I mean, it's Robin Williams at his finest.
Wait, you're right.
His character as the genie was perfect for him. And fun fact, he voiced over 1,000 pieces of dialogue in the movie, and it was the first time that Disney was poking at themselves for over merchandising at the time. Yes.
Wow, interesting.
Robin Williams did not hold back. He did not hold back one bit. So let's dive in, and we are not going to hold back as well. So if you are here joining us in the chat, say hi and forgive us because we are professionals. Well, these two more so than I am. They are professionals in the film and entertainment industry. So let's dive in. Let's start with our personal nostalgia. When did we first see it? What experiences we have with it and why we love it so much, or why we are not so loving it so much. Jeromy, would you like to begin?
Oh man. So I like our hero Aladdin. I too was a poor street rat. So I did not see the film in theaters, but rather when it came out on this thing called VHS, it's a thing that doesn't exist anymore. But back in my day, we had these little black plastic boxes that played the movies. That was how I originally saw it, and my grandmother, bless her, she collected every single VHS Disney put out. Every year, that was her thing. So, and she collected them, so when we were over, we would watch them. Watched it the first time probably at my grandmother's house, and viewing it on that collection. So for me, there's a little bit of like personal nostalgia there, but I never saw it in theaters because again, we didn't really go to movies very often. So it was that would be my first experience probably with the film.
All right. Christine?
Ooh, I feel like I had a very similar first experience with Aladdin. I wasn't born yet when the film came out, but
okay, we forgive you, child.
I was a toddler probably when I first saw it, just a few years after it came out. And I too watched it on VHS, and I had at the time probably like every Disney movie my mom would get on VHS for us, or we'd go to the Blockbuster. Rest in peace, Blockbuster. But so we pretty much I was like an obsessive Disney child. So I would take each VHS tape that we had and watch it over and over and over until I had them memorized and had the songs memorized. And would find some way to dress up as the characters, or I was really into drawing growing up. So drawing all the characters, just kind of a nice Disney obsession. So Princess Jasmine was probably one of my top princesses. However, with all toddler logic, she did not have the poofiest, sparkliest dress. So she was a little bit lower down on that list, but that doesn't mean the movie was any less good.
All right. Okay. That's That's fair because I myself as a child felt the same way. I was like, well, she doesn't have like a really cool dress. She doesn't have like her own big song like the other princesses do. So I totally get that. Let's see. I can't remember if I saw it in theaters. I think I did. I think I did. I think at that point I was still, near my grandmother's house and I did see some movies, so I wasn't entirely strict because my grandmother spoiled me. But I do,
Grandmothers, they're great.
yeah,
Yeah.
bless them. Oh my gosh. Or like as Fiona would say, bless up. Um, I do have like some some stories that I enjoy and the reason why I love this film so much, but we will actually get into that later. Let's start with the story in itself. As an entire film or as portions, because I do know like it did have to start off introducing the main character, Aladdin. And we did have the little street merchant guy basically setting the scene, setting the scene. And then we're introduced to Aladdin. Oh, he's a little dude that steals bread and has like a little monkey, and they just kind of live on the rooftop sort of situation. How did we feel with the beginning introduction of the film in itself?
Um, I think the opening sequence to the movie is really, really well done, and it played homage to a lot of classic films that came before it. Um, where it had that long panning shot over the desert, and then you come in on the little sketchy merchant guy, and he's explaining stuff, and then you from there you basically get thrust into the world that is Aladdin. And you learn about Aladdin and how they would blame his parents, but he hasn't got any. Things like that. I think I think it was a really good like beautifully done intro, and then followed up by a lot of like kind of craziness with that song. But it was also a good way for them to be like, this is the world, and this is Aladdin, and this is his character, and this is his monkey Abu. And these are the guards that are always chasing him, and it's a little orphan thief story. So I thought it was pretty well done. It was a bit of a weird transition to go from like that beautiful scenery with like the sketchy guy explaining Arabian Nights and stuff like that, to like, oh, street rat, dun, 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 dun. Like, it's a little bit of a transition, a little bit of a different flavor. And I would have liked that to have been a little bit cleaner, but I think it was a good start to a film.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Christine. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, please. So I feel like the way they kind of lay out what's gonna happen later down in the movie, right off the bat is really smart. Like how they do have the little merchant guy, and then Jafar's trying to trick him to go into the Cave of Wonders, and then immediately, pretty much before we even get into much of the movie, the cave like swallows him. And so I remember as a kid being absolutely freaked out. But then it transitions into this nice like song and dance. We kind of see a little bit about Aladdin and how he lives in Abu. And then it kind of like nicely balances out from like a kid's perspective what could be scarier, but just from like me now watching it, it's a nice way to kind of take a pull back from like the intensity that we dive right into. So yeah.
Yeah.
Also that
You mean
iconic.
this Cave
Yeah.
of Wonders?
That
I
Cave
love
of
it, by the way.
Wonders.
Very cool.
The Cave of Wonders.
See, I told you this guy was a professional twitcher. Look at him. He's got like a green screen that has that.
Oh, this is a poster I
No,
had.
shut up. Get
No,
out of
because I
here.
would believe it.
No.
I'd be like, that's a super fan.
Over
This
here.
is
Look
this
at me.
this
Yeah.
is a drape that I've had for a while. So
Jeremy's just had it in his closet and he's like, it is
yeah,
time. And he flashes the
this is the
dust off of
perfect.
it.
This is the
I'm
day.
like a little too gullible for this conversation because I believe it, but
Oh, good. We'll get along just fine.
like I don't know if I should.
No, you are good. You are good. Oh, Really quick, I did want to remind everyone, and I forgot to give you guys a heads up, so I apologize, but I'm glad that you have something to snack on and drink on because
Yes.
people that are watching can collectively can collect some wordy words are no goody good for me. They can collect channel points, which are, I believe, are nom buns, and they can redeem their nom buns for things like hydrate yourself, stretch, speak in third person, which is the hardest one ever. Um, Speaking in song, things like that. A lot of shenanigans because we do like to have fun every once in a while on here, even in the midst of a very dramatic moment, such as a giant cave of wonders ingesting a human being, and boom, now we are running away from security with a dude that has a piece of bread on him. Moving forward,
I used my buns just now to unlock this random emote.
oh,
So I got this one randomly, and I love it.
Oh, that's
Look how
cute.
cute it is.
I love it.
I didn't
Right?
even know that was there. That is flippin' adorable. So there you go, viewers that are currently in Twitch. And if you are not in Twitch, you were listening to this or watching this on YouTube, how dare you? But I also apologize. I'm never good at posting the schedule in advance. So tune in. Okay. Moving forward, we then become introduced to Princess Jasmine, Raja, the Sultan, and the Vizier, the royal Vizier. In this situation, Princess Jasmine is getting to an age where she does need to find a contender, or I don't know. I'm assuming a pending doom, but we'll get to that when we get there. Now, this is a traditional sort of situation to be in, especially in olden days where you've become betrothed to people or you got to figure something else out. Otherwise, this entire kingdom that you are a part of will crumble. Dun, dun, dun. How do we feel about the film so far? How do we feel about how we are introduced to the royal characters, as I'll call them for now?
Ooh, I can start on this one.
Yes.
First of all, I'm a sucker for animal sidekicks. So Raja and what's the parrot's name again? Oh, I forgot.
Iago.
Iago, yes. Yeah, they're great. And then Abu also, but I know we're talking about like palace characters. But so this film has lots of them. So right off the bat, warm, fuzzy feelings. In terms of being introduced to like the premise that she's got to be engaged or get married, whatever. The one thing that I did notice, which I was like, okay, very convenient that it's time to start the movie right at this time, is like she's got 3 days till her birthday. I'm like, ooh, okay. So it feels, I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't nitpick it that much, but it feels rather convenient to like all of a sudden throw us into this world where suddenly they start caring about who she's marrying 3 days before her birthday. However, is it easy to overlook? Yes. Like you just kind of have to buy into it and then everything like really picks up.
All right. Okay. Okay. Good, good, good. Jeremy.
Well, first off, let me say I love tigers. They are my favorite animal.
Right.
So I was like all about Raja. I was like, this is the best character in the movie at this point. And I'm like, this could be all about this tiger, and I would probably care a little bit more. And I feel like the way they presented Jasmine initially, like they could have given her a stronger introduction at the market, and they could have given her a little bit more of a presence, I think, in her introduction. I thought Jafar's introduction was really good. It was like, oh, that guy's the bad guy. And I thought Iago obviously is amazing, one of the highlights of the film. But I actually really enjoyed the Sultan character. I loved his voice. I loved his performance. I loved how weird and silly he was with his little toys and his like, him being an old Santa Claus looking man. Um, I enjoyed the Sultan character a lot. Obviously, he's not the best dad in the world, but I thought he was a fun character. And as a kid, I just got a huge kick out of him. And I thought the guards were terrible. And I think one thing that I could not get out of my head is that The main guard is basically Bluto, from like Mickey and like Bluto, and
Wait,
he's just
Bluto from like Popeye? Or is
no,
that
well, Bluto from Popeye, or what's the
Pete?
big dog in Disney?
Yeah.
Pete. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that guard is basically just Pete. Um, and Pete is basically just Bluto for Popeye. But that's a whole nother conversation. But he was literally just Pete as as a child, I was like, what's he doing in this movie? And why is he a human? Like, I don't get it. What are they going for here? Um, so that one character threw me off a little bit, but I think they could have done a little bit better with Jasmine in her presentation, in giving her a stronger introduction. And obviously Jafar was like, oh, this is the bad guy. Very clearly, he's in all black and red, and he has a snake staff. This is the bad guy. Okay. Um, way to just throw it out there. And obviously Iago was amazing. And a really fun voice, and as a kid you ate it up. So, but yeah, for me the standout is obviously Raja.
Aw, so sweet. Yeah, Raja is definitely the rough personality in the little bunch of them, as just as rambunctious as Princess Jasmine. I did notice that it was the same voice actor who like voices all these big, ruffly mans, including Darkwing Duck, Tigger, Pooh. Yeah, now I'm getting soft. It is Jim Cummings. Jim Cummings is Razul. He is also Pete. He is an
Mm-hmm.
absolute delight. I mean, Jeremy knows more because I feel like this past weekend
We just saw
alone.
Jim this weekend.
Yeah, we just saw Jim at the Anime Pasadena. Shout out to Anime Pasadena. Yay.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, okay. So moving on, we realize that Jafar is very, very, very firm on finding this lamp and finding this diamond in the rough and whatnot. And what I find interesting is how did he get the sorcery into his staff? But that is just me not really paying much attention to
Mm,
the actual plot of the story, just the how did this happen kind of thing, you
yeah, of
know?
Well,
course.
it's
Um,
funny you mentioned that. In
oh,
the cartoon, they kind of explained that he was collecting magical things to give himself power.
Oh.
So, kind of similarly, he had been collecting magical items, but obviously a lamp is better because you could wish for whatever you want. Kind of thing. So he was already dabbling in the world of magic and collecting little things.
A Disney world.
Because
ooh.
there were episodes of the show where there were like leftovers of Jafar's stuff, and then they had to deal with the nonsense of
Mm.
it.
Oh, was that one of the filler episodes?
I
I don't.
all of the cartoon was filler.
Was it more like,
they were they were good, but they were all like standalone stories.
were they mainly like prequel-esque, like giving background information?
Sometimes they were giving background stuff and more of like seeing the world, and just excuses to send Aladdin on adventures against like different characters. And Genie was there, but he wasn't as powerful because he had been set free. And so there were all these like weird things going on with the cartoon. But that is one of the things that they talk about, is like Jafar was evil and he was collecting all these things, and like there's legacy happening.
Very cool. It's like a Disney Horcrux. He's got to get all the little magical and then like become all powerful. I love that.
Nerd.
Sorry.
You're in safe company. So we're shockingly almost at the 30-minute mark on our stream, which is insane. So I'm gonna do my best to like fast forward through this story so that we can actually like dig in and talk about what we really want. So anyways, so he finds Aladdin. Princess Jasmine is saved by Aladdin in the normal people area. That sounds so bad. The
The
market.
commoner area.
The commoner. The place for the
For
commoners.
the poor people area. Let me dip my Oreo. Yes,
Wait,
yes, the commoners. Where the commoners eat.
I interject because as an adult watching it again this morning, where it was like, okay, Jafar wants the magic lamp. Cool. Let's look into this little portion of like the portal type thing.
Mhm.
And then we see him, and then all of a sudden the guards send after it and they find him almost immediately. It's like, if this guy is so like poor and street rat and all this kind of stuff, I was like, how can they find him so quickly? Like, he cannot be the only person that's like commoner. But they knew exactly where to find him, and I was like, again, convenient. But
And they've been chasing him for a while too, so that's a little thing. But to your point about commoners, Agrabah was probably not the best place to live because they had a caste system, but that's a whole other thing. So yeah, poor people were poor people. So
gotcha.
And so am
so
I.
where
But anyways, so yeah, the excuse my loudness into the microphone. I don't know my volume anymore. He gets caught by the security people. Jafar tells Jasmine, "Oh yeah, he's already getting his head chopped off." And then much sadness for her. Oh no, my best friend, my BFF, is no longer my BFF. He is just my headless BFF.
this guy I just met yesterday.
This guy I just met yesterday, I'm completely distraught, and we need to like not randomly just execute people in the commoner area. But in fact, he ends up going to the Cave of Wonders with Jafar and Abu and Iago and blah blah blah. They go into the Cave of Wonders. He finds the magic lamp. Abu is a little sticky finger man, sticky finger monkey, and grabs a gem that he shouldn't have. They have that whole uh computer graphic exit scene from the
Mhm.
Cave of Wonders. I've got it's kind of the reason why my thing is down a little bit, just
Mm.
because the datedness of it. So he thinks he gives the lamp to Jafar. Jafar tries to knock him out. So Abu obviously is the clever dude that takes the lamp back as they're falling back into the Cave of Wonders. They rub the lamp. Now we are introduced to the genie, who is voiced by the amazing, talented Robin Williams. Um, and he sings that whole thing telling him, you're my master. We got these wishes. Let's go ahead and get these wishes out of the way so I can just go back into my little thing. How do we feel about the genie? Because I feel like Robin Williams set the bar. He set the bar, he set the bar high, and just it was mostly like, let's see how rambunctious Robin Williams actually can get. So how did we feel about Robin Williams being the genie?
So this to me is the biggest talking point for the whole film. I am a giant Robin Williams fan. And I disagree that this is Robin Williams' best work, but that's another conversation.
That's another
I
topic,
think
yeah.
that's a whole nother topic, cue ball. We'll get into it later. I think he was outstanding. And the reason I gave the film a 3.5 is because if you took Robin Williams out of the movie, it's not a good movie.
Ooh, hot take.
He made the movie exceptional. He made it like it would have been okay. It would have been decent. You would have seen a lot more of its flaws. We forgave a lot of that because of Robin Williams. And he outstanding, incredible performance. Like Cue Ball said, he recorded line after line after line, and a lot of it was improv. It was just stuff he was doing. And they have so many takes of it. And the funniest part of it is Robin Williams did not want to be a big part of this movie. He just wanted to come in and be a character. He actually got upset at Disney for the way that they put Genie as a big thing on the cover, because he never wanted his character to be a big part of the film.
Mhm.
He just wanted to go and do it and have fun, but he didn't want it to be a Robin Williams movie. And he was very upset at the marketing team, and very unhappy with the way that they used basically everything he did versus like cutting most of it. And then they built kind of a film around him because of that. So I think, Robin Williams, absolutely incredible. And again, if you take him out of the film, if he had had it his way, the film may not have been as good. But yeah, he was supposed to have about as many lines or interactions as Iago. He wasn't supposed to become the main character. But Disney saw what he did and saw how well he did and saw how marketable it was. And then they pushed it, especially after they got through their test audiences. So I thought absolutely wonderful introduction. And it is, I would say it's Robin Williams at his best because he just got to cut loose and do all of his impressions and all of his voices, which there are a lot of outtakes of him doing that on other things like Sesame Street. I thought it was all great. And I thought he was so good that this was when I knew I liked the film. Up until this point, I was like, I'm like kind of invested. I don't necessarily like Aladdin as a character. I love Abu and I love the tiger and I like the animals, but the people I don't really care about. As soon as Genie came into the mix, I was like, okay, I'm invested. This is the character I care about the most. And of course, it was Robin Williams. And as a child, I didn't realize how much I would grow to like Robin Williams, but that was I think a fantastic introduction. And I think if you took him out of the film, it would be not in anybody's top 5 Disney films, maybe not in anybody's top 10 Disney films if you took out Robin Williams. So that's how I feel about
I
it.
could totally see how you're like, especially given that context that I didn't realize that he really improv'd and kind of built a lot of the character up himself, and how they really didn't cut down, they just tried to use a lot, is really interesting. Because at first, when you first said that, before explaining, I was like, I don't know, like they still would have had this really fun character, maybe a different voice, different actor, but all these crazy animation ideas. Because one of my favorite parts about the genie is how visual it is. Like he'll split off into a lot of little genies, or he'll all of a sudden be taking a shower and then he's got props, and it's just kind of crazy. And that has always been one of my favorite parts of him. Part of the movie in general is just like how fast paced it is, and then it really starts going like there's so many tiny little details and things that happen fast paced once we get to the genie. And it works perfectly for my little kid brain and for my adult TikTok attention span brain, just to keep me engaged and really locked in and watching, because I don't want to miss anything. But knowing that Robin Williams really did like improv and built this character is totally changes my opinion of Genie and my opinion of this movie. Because then I agree, like, do I care about Jasmine and Aladdin? Sure. Am I like super invested? Like, sorry to jump ahead at the end, but like, if we don't like give Genie his freedom and Aladdin's super happy, do I really care? Like, no, I want Genie to be happy. Like, he ends up kind of being the more like main character in terms of like who I'm most invested in. So I am like, that really changes how I see things.
Yeah, the you talked about the voices that he did and stuff like that. If you watch an interview with him,
Yeah.
he's constantly just doing impressions like of George Bush or different, like Jack Nicholson. All of that is just stuff he does. And so he was just in there going crazy, and they were like, "Oh my God, we're
Yeah.
keeping all of this." I know he doesn't want us to, but yeah, there's a really good clip of him on Sesame Street where he's given a stick, and he's like, oh yeah, it can be anything, and he does like hockey, and he does like, oh, and Pinocchio, and he just goes into this whole thing. And same for his live interviews, this was just who he was. So like Genie was just him, and this kind of what Cue Ball said is like him just being himself, and just doing those impressions and all of those characters.
Definitely.
Yeah, and he's definitely a man we miss every day. So moving forward, this is always the hard part for me, just trying to like switch over. Moving forward, Genie gets them out, and then Aladdin wishes to be a prince so that he can possibly have a chance with winning a princess, since that's the only rule, what it seems like, that is really stopping him from pursuing her. Um, And then we get the whole introduction to Prince Ali Alibaba. Prince Ali Ababa. Uh-oh. Oh no. Oh, Q, how dare you? Q has just redeemed talk in third person. So now we have to speak in third person. But that's great because I'm just talking about the
Q,
movie.
the Jeremy has no problem talking in the third person. The Jeremy loves to talk about himself.
I love
And
how it's the Jeromy. The Jeromy.
it's like the boulder, right?
The
Is it Boulder
boulder.
from
Or
Avatar?
Yeah. I'm wearing an Avatar shirt too.
Oh.
The boulder.
Oh, the Jeremy is wearing an Avatar shirt.
The Jeremy is wearing an Avatar shirt.
Yes.
The Jeremy has mixed feelings about fighting a little girl.
Cue ball, you're not sorry. It's okay though. So as we get further along, we have the introduction, and this is where Princess Jasmine's like, all of you standing around and deciding my future. I am not a prize to be won, with a little dramatic exit, you know. And then we move over to Aladdin kind of sneaking up on her balcony, you know. It's a little
Like you
invasion
do.
of her privacy, but you know, good for you. You got a magic carpet, use it, I guess. And then we do get the famous song that I believe won a Grammy, A Whole New World.
Yeah.
And as I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm sure the three of us have definitely noticed. We are nerds. There are little bits and pieces of like landmarks that they go to, which look quite familiar in other animated Disney films. Uh, did anybody recognize any of those little bits?
I don't think I actually have looked that close. Wait, that's really cool. I did notice though, if it's like little like hidden, I noticed that at least at one point in the movie that like when Genie's looking through the recipe book and he pulls out like Sebastian from Little Mermaid and like stuff like that. I was just like, oh wait, is it scenes from other Disney movies?
It is, well, it's more like landmarks, I feel
Oh,
like,
oh, oh,
or
cool.
Stephanie feels like, Jesus, I can't do
Ah,
this. Now I understand. Now Stephanie understands the struggle of talking in third person
I think
after, you know,
messed up
that
The
karma is tough.
earlier.
the Jeremy noticed a lot of these, but I think the Jeremy noticed other famous world landmarks. Like they went to the Taj Mahal, they went to the pyramids of Giza, and the whole time the Jeremy was thinking, where is Agrabah? Like, how far are we traveling? Because I was the Jeremy was a pretty clever child, and he felt as if this was a lot of travel for a magic carpet. The Jeremy also can't think of that scene without thinking of the Lilo and Stitch promo where Stitch pulls up on them on the carpet and he hits on Jasmine and then Jasmine flies away with Stitch because that's how they promoted Lilo and Stitch. So I can't think of that scene.
Without
Wonderful song and all, but I always think of like Stitch pulling up and like, woo, ha ha, like, Jeremy always thinks of that. But I thought it was a really good scene, beautifully animated. Obviously, the song was fantastic, and if we're talking music, the soundtrack for the film is phenomenal. I think it is really good, solid. Jeremy thinks this soundtrack is mighty good. I like it. I'm a big fan that Jeremy would like to hear more music by the Aladdin soundtrack. From Arabian Nights to Prince Ali, all the way to A Whole New World. I think these are they're fantastic. They're iconic for a reason. So yeah, and you can't go to a karaoke night without hearing a drunk couple sing A Whole New World, or a drunk, hopefully soon to be couple sing A Whole New World. I've definitely done it. I've been at a karaoke bar and been like, "Hey, you're cute. Would you want to sing A Whole New World with me?" And that's what you do.
Wow, Stephanie did not realize Jeremy is that kind of romantic. requesting to duet with strangers at a bar for karaoke.
So Jeromy is very romantic.
But there
Christine-
is.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say Christine does agree though. Like, where is Agrabah? Because I remember, like Christine remembers. I gotta get used. Christine's gotta get used to this. Okay. At the end of the magic carpet scene, it's super cute, and Jasmine and Aladdin are seated, like on top. I don't know what it's called, but it's like it definitely feels like a Chinese type festival with a dragon and everything. And Christine was like, "How close are we? Did we just zoom from Agrabah? Like, how fast does this magic carpet go? Because in theory, we're going all types of places." So
Yeah.
Christine agrees with that.
Disney has no time. Disney just does what Disney does. I feel like, or Stephanie feels like, but also that scene where they're sitting on top of the place that looks like it's China, it seems very, very familiar to the Emperor's Castle, we'll call it, over in Mulan. And there's that scene where they're flying through what looks like Greece or one of those countries that I'm horrible with. And it looks very like there's this angel, this little Cupid statue that looks like the Cupid that stabbed Meg when she was doing her right before she was doing that whole I won't say I'm in love. I'm not singing that. But moving forward, there are lots of Easter eggs in this film, and if you Google them, you see all the funness. Moving forward, Jafar.
Well,
Oh yeah.
not to be a stickler,
Uh-oh.
but those films came out after Aladdin.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Did they? So then, is it not? Or did they have like multiple films in production, like and kind of foreshadow their how close were they released, do you think?
I think the two guys who did Aladdin were also the two guys who did Hercules, because part of the reason they got to do Hercules and Treasure Planet was because of the success of previous films. And I don't remember their names off the top of my head, and it's been more than 5 minutes. So
Ron
I could
Clements
say
and John Musker.
yes.
Those
So they did the film early, so it's and maybe it's a nod back and forth, or they based it off of historical things. But you decide as the audience.
Yeah, I mean,
Predict the future.
I agree. Like they're definitely historical monuments, and maybe they looked back and were like, "Oh, well, I mean, we've got these sketches done already. We could kind of recycle them because Disney is notorious for recycling certain bits and pieces." A cue ball just redeemed hydrate, so everybody get that water and hydrate.
For 5 minutes too.
No, my goodness, no.
Chug, 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 chug.
Refreshed.
Thank you. Hydrate. Keep us from wrinkling up. Moving forward, they find out he's a fraud. Then Jafar has the lamp. Jafar makes his wishes. Then it messes everything up. And okay, we only have like maybe 15-ish. We can go over a little bit if you guys want. But we only have so much time left, so we all know the rest of the story. They find out he's just a street rat. And then all that stuff with Jafar being like the most powerful sorcerer sultan in the world. And has Princess Jasmine as a prisoner. And the Sultan as a little puppet guy getting crackers shoved in his mouth by Iago. How dare you, Iago? What if he's gluten intolerant? And and then, Aladdin figures his way through because he's got the carpet still. He's still got Abu, and Genie still likes him more than Jafar. Jafar makes his wish of being a snake. Oh, no, a genie. And then gets sucked into a lamp. That was terrifying. I do not like snakes because of this movie.
Yeah.
How dare you,
And
Disney.
the snake, but also Jafar Genie, like his genie. So I remember scared the nonsense out of me as a kid.
It was very, very scary design.
Yep. So excuse me, there we go. I had a bubble in my throat. So we move forward. Genie gets stuck in the little lamp. Or Jafar, Genie Jafar gets stuck in the little lamp. Genie yeets him out into the desert with Iago being in the lamp as well. And then everybody lives happily ever after until the second movie. But again, we don't really care about the second movie all that much. How did we feel about this entire last third of the film? We'll kind of generalize it into the last third.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of glossed over.
I
For
did.
me as a young man, there was one moment that I felt heartbreak and betrayal, and I understood. And it's the scene where Jasmine kisses Jafar as
Oh,
part of the trick. I remember being a young man, and I've talked to other men about this, and they all had the similar reaction of like, how, what, she did that, and Aladdin was watching, and like, that poor guy, they just had to watch the love of his life kiss the evil, and it was like, and that's it messed me up. It messed me up as a young boy. I would say I was like, you can't trust anybody. Even though
oh.
going back, I know that was like, that was a good plan, and that was the reason she did it. But there was definitely a part of me that was like, these hoes ain't loyal. Like,
Oh.
I
That's
had
a
like this.
ruin.
So that now I don't trust women, and it comes from this movie. But there was that moment where it was like this was like the first, maybe, I don't think maybe they kissed on the carpet. Either way, this was like a big like moment of betrayal that I had not seen in a Disney movie. And yeah, it was clever and it got the job done, but it was still like, as I was invested in like their future, I was like, oh, you have to live with her knowing that she kissed him. Like, and kissing is a big thing. It's the biggest thing ever because I'm a child.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. Yeah.
so in my child brain, this was the ultimate betrayal.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, the rest of the scene was really cool, and I felt like they kind of rushed the ending a little bit. After a certain point, they kind of rushed through. But everything else, up until that point was really good. And if we're going all the way to the ending, I thought, the genie getting set free was the most, like Christine said, like, I was heavily invested in him not being a slave anymore.
Mhm.
Which was a great lesson for you to learn as a child. So I wanted him to be free. And so I wanted him to go and like live his life, and he was like, I'm going to Disney World, and like doing all that stuff. And so that was all good. And then happily ever after, and even though they didn't fix the caste system or help poor people, but they were happy, the rest, they were happy. That's all that matters. And Genie was free. That's all that matters. Those commoners. Uh, I enjoyed the ending. It felt a bit rushed. I felt like there could have been a more back and forth. But I did like the callback to, cosmic power, itty bitty little space. So I enjoyed that callback, and the way that they had set it up. So I felt like that was all very clever. But I'll never forgive Jasmine, for breaking my young child heart,
Oh,
and with her betrayal.
spreading them
But
cooties.
yeah, that's how you get cooties. You want cooties? That's how you get them. But yeah, I felt like the ending was a little rushed, but I enjoyed it pretty thoroughly. And again, the biggest payoff for me wasn't that they ended up together, because I was like, I don't know how much I care. But Genie getting free and seeing what that was going to be like, I was like, what's it like when you're free? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do? Like, what do you go to Disney World? I thought that was really good. And I thought the scene where he's like, he's hugging Aladdin, he's like, you'll always be a prince to me. Like those moments of like, hey, no matter how the world looks at you, I'm your friend, and I think you're special. I thought that was a better lesson and a better story than the actual like romance part of it.
100% I'm with you on that. Kind of, yeah, tying back to what we were saying earlier, it's like, do I really care if Jasmine and Aladdin end up together? I'm like, in my mind, you're a guy who fell in love with a girl and lied to her for most of the movie. So I'm like, action consequences. But I was like, the fact that Genie got free and just seeing that whole sequence, and then especially now with Robin Williams having passed, it was really emotional to go back and watch those like those scenes with him like being freed, and then those like sentimental statements he would say that just kind of like now like given context, and if you take it out of the movie, it's just like like it's like really speaks to you, kind of knocks you off your feet, which is something so powerful that like our cartoon movie can make you feel that way, right? But I definitely agree. I think the ending was rushed. I mean, I remember watching it this morning and I had a few interruptions, and so I was like pausing it as I went, and I was like, I had it at one point and I was like, okay, there's got to be still like a good chunk left because like XYZ needs to be resolved. Like we are still like arguing about marriage, whatever. And then I go to unpause it. And it's like 20 minutes left. And I know like 5 of that is gonna be the credits. So I was like, we have 15 minutes to take this from like point A to like point Z. Like we have so far to go, and we kind of zoom through the ending. That being said, part of what I feel like I love so much about this movie is kind of just like the world that it sets. I kind of feel this way about like Harry Potter too, where sometimes I like care less about the plot and actually what's going on, and more about like the smaller details about like the characters' lives and like watching them get to fall in love. I mean, that's a big plot point, but just seeing some of the character interactions, especially with those sidekicks, sometimes it's just more like the song and dance is more meaningful to me than seeing like conflict resolution, like the whole like plot story arc. So it's not to say that a fast ending really ruined it for me, because in some ways having a not drawn out, but like a fuller more elaborated ending might have almost been a little bit like, okay, let's hurry up. Like, this is not the part that I care the most about, which is kind of weird and backwards, but I don't know. Maybe you can relate.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. Like the ending did feel rushed, just how I described it. It was plot wise. There could have been more, but I agree, Christine. Like the concern of how much more would have made it good, or how much more would have made it drag on, is a really good question, and I wish we knew. But they do have Jafar's return, or the return of Jafar, and then the King of Thieves, and the series as well. That from what Jeromy said, it does explain a lot of bits and pieces that seemed very like open-ended, or like how did this happen, or what the origin is, or like or more random things like Hercules and mermaids and things like that. So yeah, the ending was absolutely adorable. I've always wanted to go to Walt Disney World since I heard him open his friggin' mouth and say he's going to Walt Disney World. And I finally went last year, and I want to go again. Damn it, how dare you, Robin Williams? How dare you
Well,
introduce
that
me
was
to a
Disney.
world?
That was not improv. That was planned.
Oh, okay then. Damn it, Disney, how dare. I'm hoping for bigger, better things now with that new transition over in the head of commands.
And it was also a joke because at the time there were people who were like, "I just won the World Series. I'm
Yes,
going to Disney World," and then
exactly.
they got that nice little check from Disney. So it was a bit of an inside joke, but yeah,
And it was a
definitely good
cute
marketing
joke.
because I want that goofy hat. That goofy
Yes.
hat that he
Yes,
was wearing at
that's
the end.
another one
I
of the
was
Easter
like,
eggs. I was like, oh, I know him.
Yes, I feel
and
like they need that hat.
The first piece of merch I got from Disneyland was a Genie shirt that I've worn to the point that you can't see Genie on it anymore, so I didn't wear it tonight. But it is one of the first things I got was like, I need this. This and Pegasus from Hercules were my first two Disneyland purchases.
I love that.
Oh, it's so cute. And it's okay. So we've gone through the story. We have mentioned little bits and pieces in the film throughout the film of things that we enjoyed, things that we questioned. Um, how did we feel about the voice actors? I mean, we've said plenty about Robin Williams and how there's nothing that he could have done that would have made it worse. Like it was so good. Everything that he did was so good that he wasn't in the film, it wouldn't have been as amazing of a film as it is now.
I
So,
think, speaking from a big fan of voice acting and obviously somebody who dabbles, and it's pretty critical of these performances. I think obviously Robin Williams stand out. I think Bobcat Goldblum as Iago was amazing.
oh, Gilbert
Jafar
Gottfried.
was Gilbert Godfrey. Sorry, I mixed up the two in my head.
You're good.
Gilbert Godfrey as Iago was amazing. I felt like Jafar was fantastic. I felt like despite the bad, there's some bad writing. There is some bad writing. Despite the bad writing, the performances from all of the main characters, even Jim Cummings, was just so good. And I felt like they were well delivered lines. And I think as far as Aladdin and Jasmine go, they really highlighted when the singing started. I was like, "Ooh, you can sing! You are a singer!" And so I felt like everybody had really great performances, like across the board. I can't think of anybody where I'm like, I would have wanted to see less of that person.
Mm.
Um, but again, they were hurt by poor writing. But as far as like voice performances and acting goes, they were great. I thought they were fantastic. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to not compare everybody to Robin Williams, but if you take out the Robin Williams factor and you go by individual performances, they were all like pretty spot on. Like I didn't really care for Aladdin as a character, and I didn't really fall in love with Jasmine. Like to a certain degree I did because I was a young boy, but also like I felt like they could have given her more to deliver, but she had a great voice. She had a good, just her regular speaking voice was nice. It was enchanting, and his lines were smooth and well delivered. But the writing really hurt them, I think. But their performances were great.
All right, awesome, Christine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add on that point, but I do agree. I feel like the voice acting and the performances done really, they did the best that they could with the writing that they had. And I feel like for the most part, like nothing really like cringed me out or I was like, ooh, that felt forced or in like either sense, in voice acting or writing sense. There was probably a few moments, I think closer to the beginning, when like Aladdin and Jasmine were starting to get to know one another, in that first initial scene right after the chase. But I don't know. I don't know if I was okay. Yeah. So top ranking of the voice, Robin Williams. We've covered that. But I feel like I gotta put Jasmine at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know, but something about it felt a little too like it felt almost a little too forced in the sing-songiness. Like it almost didn't come out quite as naturally as I would think. And like again being super critical, but yeah, Robin at the top, and then I'm not sure who played Jasmine, but Probably. Voice stood out to me at least, I guess. Yeah.
So Linda Larkin's speaking voice, or Linda Larkin was the speaking voice of Princess Jasmine, whereas Lea Salonga was the singing voice for Princess Jasmine.
Ooh.
She's also the singing voice for Mulan as well. And then with Scott, or with Aladdin, Scott from Full House, or his name was Steve in Full House, is the voice of Aladdin, and Brad Kane is the singing voice for Aladdin. I said that word a lot in that sentence, but
Aladdin.
yeah, Aladdin. Yeah, I mean, this is where I'm a little more of a stubborn person that will absolutely shove my face in the dirt just to hide the idea, or just to hide my actual opinions of the voices. Not necessarily because, well, not yeah, I don't know how to word that. Anyways, so with Linda Larkin and Scott, I did find her speaking Princess Jasmine speaking voice a little hard on my ears, and very, very dramatic.
Mhm.
Uh, and I did some Googling and I forgot where I found it, but there was a moment where Aladdin and Jasmine were based off of Valley Kids. So their personalities were a little more of that like Valley style, but I had to read it and watch the movie again to really get it because then it made more sense to me. Um, but yeah, I think all the voice actors did a phenomenal job with what they were given, as you've both mentioned. Um, I will say though, for a fact, that Brad Kane's voice sounds exactly the same as it did 30 years ago, just because I got to sing with him like 6 years ago. So I'm just saying that. Um, so yeah, I mean, is there anything that you wanted to say about the film or the legacy that it left, or any of the voice actors or animators or directors?
Ooh, I can kind of dive. I want to dive in a teensy bit. I know we're going over time a little bit, but just kind of on what especially kind of knocked down my rating to that 3, which I'm
Yeah.
still iffy about. But um, diving in like right off the bat, which I thought was super cool because I kind of like just kind of remembered this or like maybe couldn't quite put a finger on why Aladdin might have rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, but right off the bat, which I think it's super cool that Disney Plus does this, is they kind of have that disclaimer at the beginning, like that's this movie isn't 100% like culturally sensitive, and that things can be portrayed a lot more accurately and a lot less like I want to say like offensive, I guess offensively. Yeah, like things could have been done a little more tactfully. And I really appreciated that concept. Um, um, because I do think that again, like growing up, I couldn't quite place my finger on what maybe felt a little off. But then now, as I'm more grown up and have a better worldview and kind of can realize that there are some like stereotypes portrayed and things like that that I don't quite love. Like I'm still 100% glad we have access to the movie and can watch it. And I love that it's just a disclaimer rather than being taken down altogether. But comparing that to some other Disney movies is kind of how I got my scale to the 3. And I feel like there's a lot more Disney movies, both in the past, but like prior to Aladdin and or like in that era of Disney, or even, of course, in the future, as people become more aware and kind of in their portrayal of different cultures and whatnot. I think Aladdin does just kind of stick out as like a little bit of a sore point in Disney history. Um, but then even like cultural like portrayal aside, I feel like there are so many other Disney movies that kind of stick out to me as more iconic. That kind of like when you think of Disney, certain movies pop to your head. And
Mhm.
for me, Aladdin is not one of those. Though a completely great movie. So I feel like that's kind of where I kind of knocked it down a peg, where as a kid, 5 out of 5. As an adult, kind of seeing things like hindsight 2020, kind of seeing Disney history and where it's come, and even some of the iconic movies of that time as well. It's just kind of how I got to my three popcorn buckets. Also, cue ball, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was really nice of you to say. I like to joke that I started puberty and my voice stayed there and fully finished. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Q was saying a couple of times that Christine's voice is adorable.
Thank you.
Yay. He also says, I would like to say that the film still holds up, and yes, the writing was mean, or the writing was meh, but the characters are still loved after all this time, and this movie can be watched for years to come.
Definitely.
So,
I like that you brought up the cultural thing, because every time I hear Prince Ali and they get to the part where they talk about how he has a bunch of slaves, I'm still like, what? You guys put that in a song? Like, Disney, what the fuck?
Or like how Jafar, even at the end, calls him like Prince Abubu. Like his last name is not that hard to pronounce. And so it really just kind of like nails in that kind of like frustration.
Yeah.
yeah. Jeremy, was there any,
My-
because I know at the very beginning you did also mention like you were kind of teetering between 3.5 and 4 popcorns.
So for me, that's all about Robin Williams. Like, I talked a little bit about like how he didn't want his part to be as big as it was. He didn't want to be stuck doing all of this, all of these things, and he didn't want them to sell the movie on his fame. He just wanted to come in and do like Iago did and just be a character. So I look at it like, if you took him out, or he got his way, or it was another actor, writing wise, performance, and everything else, the film doesn't stand on its own. So that's why I knocked it down some points. I think obviously when I rank my Disney films, it's still in my top 5, and it's because Robin Williams is in there.
Okay.
But as a film critic and looking at it objectively, if you took him out, it's a completely different film, and that film is not extraordinary. It's not special. It's not something you're like, wow, that was so different and so much better than anything I had ever seen Disney do. If you take out that one person. And so I think if we're being critical of it, then that's why I dropped points. And I do have a little bit of a grudge against Disney when it comes to the film, because of how strongly Robin Williams felt about this. And he talked about it in interviews, and how it like really bothered him that they just kind of like paved over what he wanted to do, and broke his contract to a certain degree. And like to find out to know all of his history and the things he struggled with, and things that eventually led to him passing away, it makes me look at that in a different context. So from that point of context, I'm like, fuck you, Disney, but also I love Robin Williams, so I love this movie. So it's a mixed bag for me. I'm glad that they did use as much of his stuff, and I do have that to go back to and watch. But there's also like respecting somebody's wishes and things like that. So it's like, yeah, it's great. Disney's still a little evil. That casual reminder that Disney's still a little evil. But I think that's why I dropped it down, because in my head it was like, if you're looking at it as a pure film, a film can't be one character. It can't be one story. Or it can be one story. It can't be like a side character story made the whole film.
Right.
The movie was called Aladdin, not Genie. But if you took Genie out of it or replaced the Genie, it would have not been a good film. So that's why I dropped points.
Totally fair.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I've took the points down because one, it's a giant conglomerate with a like dated appropriation every once in a while throughout the movie. Another was the graphics. Bless the graphics. I know they were doing their absolute darnest with what they were like given, because technology was like super new back in that day. Ugh, I can't believe like most of us have lived through the evolution of technology. It is so weird. It is super weird. But yeah, this film, would I put it in my top 5 Disney films? No. I wouldn't put it in my top 5 necessarily, but in regards to princesses, as Christine mentioned, yes, Princess Jasmine is pretty up there for me, along with Mulan and Kida, but that's another conversation for another time. You
Those are
know,
my top 3 Disney
they are hot,
princesses.
badass bitches. You
Yeah, if
can't
I
deny it.
if I'm going to give the male perspective on Disney princesses, those are my top. Like Cheetah, top of that list. And then yeah, Mulan is my second favorite Disney film, and I thought Jasmine was amazing, and she had a tiger, which is why even as like a young boy, I wanted more of her. I wanted more agency. I wanted more character, and you get a lot of that in the show, but it should have been there in the film. But yeah, I agree with that list of princesses.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, like, I think today is also like the 20 something anniversary for Beauty and the Beast, but we're not talking about Beauty and the Beast. We are talking about Aladdin. And we actually are finishing our conversation about Aladdin because we did go a little over, and that's okay. That's okay because there's a lot to say and there's so much more that we could dive into, but alas, I do like my sleep and I am still recovering from Anime Pasadena at this time. And Kasim's 24-hour stream, like my body hates me and it thinks it's 7 a.m. So I would like to say thank you to Christine and Jeremy for being here, and thank you for everyone who is tuning in live and tuning in our podcast and YouTube or whichever, whatever you watch our content through. Whoa, Jeremy, with your little emojis throwing in there, like, look at those. You can get those with your channel points, so definitely tune in on Twitch live so you can get those channel points and get those cute little red people holding little cutie hearts. Um, it is 30 years since the drop of Aladdin, Disney's Aladdin, starring Robin Williams, Scott, last name I can't pronounce and I don't want to butcher it, so I do that. Linda Larkin, Jonathan Freeman, Frank Welker, Gilbert Gottfried, and the list goes on and on and on. And shout out to the vocal performers of Lea Salonga and Brad Kane as well. There are lots of Disney movies out there that are celebrating milestones, and we love each and every one of them. So watch them. If you have Disney Plus, watch them. If you have your VHS, Jesus Christ, that's amazing. Watch them. Blu-rays, whatever. Before we leave, I would love the guests of the evening to let us know where they can find us. So let's start with Christine.
Thanks. Mainly right now, you can follow me on Instagram. It's always .Christine. And then I've got a Twitch, but I'm maybe not gonna put a little more work into that. And then I'll have it out there for y'all.
No problem at all. And Jeremy?
I am Jeremy with an O, Jeromy TV on all social media. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, where it's burning to the ground right now, and on Twitch, where I stream 2 to 3 times a week. And I also guest spot on a few D&D streams, and I do voice acting stuff and panels around Southern California. And you can find me if you like heavy metal or comic books. You can go to any Barnes & Noble and pick up an issue of heavy metal, and my name is right there at the front.
Oh, so fancy. That's so cool. We got a published man up here, man. He's
I like to throw that one in there because, like, I'll go on a date and I'll be like, "You want to go to Barnes & Noble?" You know, look,
it's me.
Yeah, look, there's my name, and no big deal.
Yeah, you want to do some karaoke?
Do you want to do some? You want to sing?
Whole New
Would you
World?
sing a whole new
a
world?
whole new world.
Now Christine knows all of my tricks. This is my limited playbook.
Well, thank you again for both of you for being on the show. You can find me at Nom Talk Network or Risu Kim on Twitter, which Jeremy has mentioned is set on fire and it is slowly burning to ashes. So I'm also on Hive. I forgot what my username is on for that one. I just made the account. But other than that, Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on all of our platforms. And our next show will be tomorrow night, and we are going to talk about the 1988 film Willow. It is not celebrating a huge milestone, but the TV show is about to drop, so we want to make sure that everybody's caught up and understands what's going on, because I do not know what's going on. And so I am not only hosting, I am watching this film for the very first time. So definitely tune in, because Jesus.
You want a weird family note about Willow?
Yes, please.
Me and my mom watched Willow every Easter. I don't know why. It's not an Easter film. Every Easter, like tradition, we watched Willow. So I'm very excited for the TV series.
Oh my God.
But almost every year of my childhood, that was one of the things we watched. So I hope you enjoy the film. It was a great film for its time.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I really can't wait now. So tune in tomorrow night to see what I have to say about it, because we've got some bringing on returning guests that are also going to join us in the conversation. But other than that, I hope you all have a nomorific day, night, morning, afternoon, whatever. Okay, bye.
Bye.